Dutch cycling at the moment. Dutch cycling in terms of Jumbo-Visma.
What a weekend they've had.
No,
but
they
can look forward to.
Are they better as an all-round team than Ineos, who have held that mantle for long? In terms of, they do everything now, don't they? They might not win everything, but they place riders in Grand Tours, more consistency. They win these one-day races. They won the team time on the Tour last year. I know Ineos get the job done, but when it really matters. But I mean, where was Kwiatkowski today? I think he was quite far down, top 15.
It was Moscon who was leading from Ineos but on the final
they
descent.
Seem to have riders everywhere, don't they, in every kind of race. And they've really come to the fore now.
Yeah. So San Remo is said to be the easiest monument to finish, Brad, you would know, but the hardest to win.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's also the most beautiful race to ride.
So like you say, a beautiful race. We should say first, here's how Carlton Kirby called it for us on Eurosport after 7 hours and 16 minutes of racing.
Alaphilippe's going to try and go up and over the top of Wout van Aert when he gets the opportunity, but when will that be? That's the big question. They've taken the right hand of themselves. They are waiting. The line is beckoning, but here come the chargers onto them. Can they possibly hold on here? Still no action from the pair of them. This is their last little view. They're going to get sight of the line, and when are they going to go? Who's going to pour it on first? Will they be caught? That's the danger. They pick it up right now. This is spectacular. Van Aert is now driving, and Alaphilippe comes up and over the top. Van Aert responds. It's Malo side by side. We need that heads-up camera. Van Aert comes back. Alaphilippe on the throw. Oh my goodness, you can't call it just for the time being. But I think it was Wout van Aert that made it. Strade Bianche and Milan-San Remo. Spectacular finale there. They don't know either. They're waiting to shake hands. What a finish.
I think it was Van Aert that got that. An arrow straight sprint from the Belgian rider. Absolutely incredible. The two out-and-out favourites for this race were untouchable on the Poggio. They carved their own storyline down the descent, held off the peloton, and that was a fair sprint, but it was the Belgian that took it.
So, Brad, Wout van Aert coming through again. 2 in 2 for him in a 2-up sprint for the line with Julian Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe, we should mention, punctured. Bad fortune for him with 35 kilometres to go, but made an amazing effort to get back on. Up to the front, 6 kilometres to go. He had a dig. It looked like Van Aert was struggling to stay with him, descending like a madman. Laura, your heart was in your mouth.
I couldn't breathe or speak watching that descent. It was awful. And they kept re-showing the bits where he was almost over the barriers.
Almost out of control. But it seemed like he was happy to take a risk at every turn. Matt Stevens on commentary was blowing his cheeks out with every hairpin turn. We were doing the same, like we say here. So Van Aert and Alaphilippe had 8 seconds on the chasing pack. In the end, Brad, there was 3/4 of a wheel length in it.
Yeah, but I have to say, actually, I was wrong last week about. I was probably quite critical of. Not critical. My observation was that he may be not in the form for the Tour de France after his statements that he's doesn't want to be peaking too soon. And he certainly fooled me because he looked his usual old self today. So good on him. And I definitely made to eat my words on that one. So when he went, it was like the old Alaphilippe of last year. But Van Aert, almost, because I was so concentrated on Alaphilippe, I almost didn't realise Van Aert was there because he's so, maybe it's his demeanour off the bike, and the way he rides the bike. He's such a class act on the bike, and he's quite poker-faced, isn't he? My eyes were just on Alaphilippe. Alaphilippe is so engaging, and you're drawn to him, his style and, the sort of the Damon Hill goatee and all that, he's sort of... and then obviously at the end you realise, Van Aert's there, isn't he? But what was really impressive, Van Aert, 1.1 kilometres to go, 7 seconds the gap, and he led out to the finish line, and Alaphilippe didn't get over him. And going into the Poggio, he was at the back of the group, Van Aert. God knows how he moved up.
Well, it looked like he was in trouble, and it looked like even his face seemed to give him away, I should say, because we were saying at the time, Laura.
Well, my pick was Wout van Aert, both last week and this week. I don't want to brag and go on about it, but I have called it right both weeks now. So I was all for Wout van Aert, and I thought, that's poker face. He's chilling out. I actually called it a resting bitch face, didn't I? I said he's just calm, controlled, concentrated.
He's a class act, isn't he?
Yeah, and actually he then went from the back of the peloton to the front of the group and kicked up the Poggio with Julian Alaphilippe. I
said earlier on TV, if you think of his schooling and his past in order to get to the road now. Cyclocross, 3 times world champion. Who's been his biggest competitor in cycling the last few years in cyclocross? Probably the 2 biggest talents that are going to change the sport the next 10 years. Mathieu van der Poel and him. And he still won 3 world titles. And we all know how good Mathieu is. Mathieu came onto the road last year and shocked the world, but he certainly impressed the world, didn't he?
The most impressive.
And now we're talking about Van Aert, one of the first 2 big monument races of the season, who potentially can win Paris-Roubaix. He's won a stage in the Tour, Dauphiné last year. His apprenticeship into road cycling has been the same as Mathieu's. So they're not too bad, are they? Challenging each other in cyclocross, pushing each other to the limits. And now look what they're doing in road cycling. And the thing that I said earlier that really struck me with him is he seems such an authentic, humble, down-to-earth person. When he finishes, you can see what it means to him. He can't believe that he's won the last 2 races. He's just a very modest, humble, hard-working class act.
A stat that you might have seen widely celebrated on social media in the past couple of days is it's been 420 days, and we're recording this on Saturday, I should say, since Big Tom Dumoulin has ridden a bike race. So the Dauphiné last June was when Tom was last in action, sorry, I should say. He finished in the same group as G today at the Tour de l'Ain as Geraint Thomas, 4 minutes and 51 seconds down. Good to have him back. Brad?
Yeah, he's one of the mainstays of the sport, isn't he? He's someone who challenges, the Ineos train. On his day, someone who'll likely challenge Bernal and that with a decent time trial in there.
I think what we're seeing, certainly on the evidence of the past week, is that Jumbo-Visma, in terms of their big hitters, are looking
well, they've followed on from last year, haven't they?
As Ineos, yeah.
I mean, they sort of come to the fore last year, didn't they? And they've carried on that success, and good on them.
But we've seen Kruijswijk, Bennett, Roglic obviously taking the win today, Laura, and Tom back in action too. So we can only assume he will be stronger come the Tour. So it bodes well for them.
Well, Tom has said actually in the press, I've seen a lot this week, that he's this year focusing on the Tour. So national, world time trials he's putting aside. This year for him is all about the Tour, but he's going into it with Jumbo-Visma with this sort of 3-leader strategy, which we've not seen work in the past. You look at the likes of Movistar, but you've got Roglic, Kruijswijk, and of course Dumoulin, all in with a shot this year for the Tour de France. But he believes he can win it, and he believes he could be the strongest rider within that team.
A lot of riders in this year's Tour believing that they will be able to win it, believing that they can win it.